Hello and welcome to Tea with Jess. I'm Jess Montgomery and I'm glad that you're joining me today for a tea break. As Nana says in my Kinship Mystery series, life is hard, have tea. So today's mug is from the Elvis Presley Museum. I got it a bazillion years ago on a family trip. It has this little bone. I ain't nothing but a hound dog. It says hound dog on the front, and you can spin the little bone, which I just absolutely love, to the point that it is the only mug I have that you can't put in the microwave because it's on a little metal. The bone is on a little metal rod, but it's worth it because it makes me chuckle every time. So that is my tea mug for today, and I'm delighted to welcome today Hannah Mary McKinnon. She's the author of psychological suspense novels that not only offer up plenty of twists and turns, but also explore in delicious detail the darkest nooks and crannies of the human heart. And after reading Sister Dear last year, in my own mind, I dubbed her Queen of the Twist. So whenever I think about her, I think Queen of the Twist. And her newest thriller, which we're going to talk about today, You Will Remember Me, definitely provides the kind of riveting prose that proves that Hannah deserves the title of Queen of the Twist. It came out just about 2 weeks ago, and it's described in a nutshell as an put-downable amnesia thriller that begs the question, how can you trust anyone when you can't even trust yourself? And I hope that has you hooked already, because what a great line. And I got to read an early copy, and it is fabulous. And no other than Lisa Unger, New York Times bestselling author, agrees with me. She described You Will Remember Me as riveting, smart, and utterly diabolical. So Hannah's new novel has already garnered plenty of reviews. So let's welcome her to Tea with Jess. Hello and welcome.
Hi, Jess. Thank you so much. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you, and congratulations on this is your fifth book out. Am I right?
Yep, it
Book
is.
five. It goes fast, doesn't it? It's amazing. Oh, so share like a non-spoiler overview of what is You Will Remember Me all about.
All right, I can do that. So You Will Remember Me is the story of three characters. There is one, the man from the beach, who wakes up on a beach but doesn't know how he got there, where he is, or indeed who he is. He has no memory at all. And then we have Lily, who is searching for her boyfriend Jack, who went missing after an evening swim. And the third character is Maya, and Maya's also searching for someone. She is looking for her estranged stepbrother Ash, who upped and left and disappeared from town 2 years prior. But the question is the man from the beach Jack, Ash, neither, or both?
I love it. That is such a great. Oh my gosh, that is perfect. I'm curious though. We've talked before, you and I, about research, and of course, I do historical research. But you must have done a lot of research about amnesia. How did I told myself I wouldn't make this corn. Do you remember the research that you did? Sorry, I gave in to my corny question. But seriously, what kind of research did you do, and what was that like?
It was really interesting, actually, because I find amnesia just in itself just so interesting, because imagine waking up and you don't know who you are, or anything about yourself, or conversely, a different kind of amnesia. So retrograde is when you can't remember your past or part of your past. But then you have a different kind, which is anterograde amnesia, where you cannot form new memories.
Oh
So,
wow!
yeah, so there's a movie with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore.
Right,
You remember that
51st
one?
Date, 51st
50
Dates,
First
right?
Dates. That's right.
That's actually a really good movie.
It's
Not
a
to
funny
with
movie.
Adam Sandler, but that's like the Adam Sandler movie that I really enjoy. It's so touching.
It is. It's a funny one. And it's actually based on a real case of amnesia. This woman, I think she was in the UK, who woke up and just every day she woke up and she didn't realize that however much time or however many years had passed. She was literally stuck in the past, which would be terrifying because you look in the mirror and you're 20 years older than you think you are. Scary. So
I have those days, even without.
even without music, yeah.
I look in the mirror and I'm like, really? Okay.
Yeah, same. So I disappeared down many rabbit holes, and what was really interesting was the fact that while there are similarities in cases, whether it's retrograde or anterograde, the cases are always very different. So there aren't really rules that apply to cases. I mean, there are some, sure, but every case is different. The duration, there are no hard and fast rules. You have retrograde amnesia. Okay, it's going to last X amount of days and hours. People just don't know. They don't know how much will come back, what might trigger it, what caused it. It could be, it can be a brain injury. It can be trauma that can create another kind of amnesia. So psychological trauma can make you have this fugue state where you basically your brain goes into over protection mode and you remember nothing. That could last a couple of hours, couple of days, maybe a week or longer. But again, it's very different. So many rabbit holes to disappear down, including the concept of confabulation, which was really fascinating. So confabulation is basically when your brain makes up memories, false memories, to fill in the blank space, because the brain does not like static blank space. So you might have the case of somebody thinking that they were in a certain job because their parent was, or whatever, and it's all completely false, but they think it's real. It's very, very real to them, which is terrifying when you can't trust your memory. So it was very interesting to explore, very much so.
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear you talk about it. So, did you know, okay, I want to write a book that it incorporates amnesia into the plot and the characters' arcs, or was there some specific like news article you read or something that what triggered this particular book besides your interest, if there is something besides your interest in amnesia?
It was the latter, actually. So it was a news article that I saw first, and I thought, oh, that would be a really interesting story. So in 2018, I think it's February 2018, a gentleman from Toronto went missing from a ski hill in Lake Placid. He was there on holiday with his wife and friends. And he said, oh, I'm just going to go to the car to go and get something, or something to that effect, and vanished. He literally disappeared. And they searched for him for days. And at some point they thought he probably perished. Maybe he was on the mountain somewhere, had fallen, hurt himself, or had died later on hypothermia overnight or whatever, and that they would at some point locate him. But he showed up in Sacramento 6 days later with a credit card in his pocket. And he knew that he had gone across that's literally across the country in a truck, but the truck driver didn't come forward. He had a credit card in his pocket, didn't know his name, vaguely remembered his wife's phone number, was finally able to call her. Meanwhile, he's still in his ski gear in Sacramento.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And he was safely returned home. He called and everyone's freaking out that they found him, and he's in Sacramento. And everything worked out for him. I don't know if he recovered his memory, but I remember hearing that and thinking, that's really terrifying. Just the fact that you don't know who you are, and that must feel so frightening. But that also means that whomever you meet who says they know you and know your past, and this is what has happened, and this is who you are, you have to trust that. We don't have to, but that's really the people you're going to anchor yourself to trust. And what if they don't have your best interests at heart? So
Right.
that was the typical thriller writer brain. Oh, wow, that's a fascinating story. I'm so glad he got home safely. What could possibly have gone wrong? That was my process,
Of course. And you touched on you don't have to trust someone, but that's just part of, but you need to. That's, I
Right.
mean, we're pack animals.
Yes.
We need to trust one another. So if that's stripped away, then what does that do to you, and how do you make decisions?
Exactly.
That's fascinating. Well, you've given a great explanation of your interest and of the different types of amnesia, but I know that you did not stop the plot and give a lecture to your readers because you're telling a story. So,
Right.
so, so as tempting as it sometimes is for us to stop our novels and give a lecture because we've done all this great research, we don't want to do that because that's,
No.
if we wanted to do that, we should be writing nonfiction, and we're not. We're writing fiction. So how difficult was it to kind of weave some of those details in a non story stopping kind of way?
It was, I mean, the whole, to be honest, this book kicked my butt. It was,
I bet.
it really did. And I plotted it in the same way as Sister Dear, and Sister Dear,
Mm-hmm.
in comparison, was a smooth book to write. I mean, yes, it had some rewrites, but not a massive amount. The one before did. Her Secret Son had that the last third was a complete gut and reconstruct. But Sister Dear, when I'd finished writing Sister Dear, my editor loved it. I felt confident that I finally knew what I was doing. That false sense of security as an author. Oh yeah, I've got it now. I know what I'm doing. And then I plotted book 5, You Will Remember Me, and I was certain that I would be able to write this and the experience would be smooth, and it wasn't. It was really hard. And part of that was the amnesia. So, for example, I have a couple of scenes, or one where the man from the beach ends up at the doctor's, and you don't want it to be a lecture. These are the different kinds of amnesia and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's boring. So I solved that by having one of the characters do some research and just very briefly list the different kinds and why she doesn't think it could be that, but it could be this, and she's mulling it over. So, but quite brief. So that worked out okay. What I found the most challenging was having a point of view character with amnesia and a linear timeline, because people who have written amnesia books, for example, Ruth Ware in A Dark, Dark Wood, or S.J. Watson, Before I Go to Sleep, they were much smarter than me. So Ruth decided when she wrote In A Dark, Dark Wood, she had a non-linear timeline. So she has chapters in the past and present. So you get to know the character pre-amnesia, and you discover who they are. And S.J. Watson used diary entries that the character would read. And I, in my wisdom, decided to use neither of those. I'm going to go out on my own and do this in a different way. And it wasn't until I actually started writing the book and started writing The Man from the Beach's chapters that I thought, oh no, I know all his backstory. I know everything about this guy, but I can't tell him. He can't have a single memory or a flashback or anything. And then I had to figure out who had told him what and when, and what other people knew and what he hadn't told who or had told who. And it was complicated. And I don't think I'll write another point of view character with amnesia again.
I just imagine all these note cards or something like
Yes.
that stuck up on a bulletin board or a
I had
elaborate
lists.
spreadsheet. Lists, yes.
Lists, yeah.
Well, that kind of flows into my other question. I'm curious because you have, like you said, you have 3 points of view, and that's a challenge to weave together, and keep the readers in, because you have to hook the reader with each point of view, right?
Yes.
And then we don't want them to forget about person A and B while they're getting to know person C, for example.
Yes.
So how did you meet that challenge?
I think the Man from the Beach was probably the easiest one in that sense. So I couldn't. The difficulty was how do I get readers to care about him because they don't know who they don't know they don't know who he is. They really didn't know who he was. But they didn't know his character because he didn't know his character. So it was so that part was difficult. But on the other hand, it was easy because there's mystery there. Who is this dude? Who is this guy? Where did he come from? What did he do or what didn't he do? And there's this, I think, innate curiosity that we have to find out, okay, who is this guy? Who there's a mystery here and we want to know.
Sure.
So in that sense, that he was probably the easiest one. And then with Lily and Maya, I think with Lily, getting the reader to go along with her journey to find Jack, her boyfriend, who'd gone missing after going swimming. Is he still alive? Is he the man from the beach? What happened to him? And then we discover that Jack has lied to her about his past. Why did he do that? So again, there's that intrigue there. What are the lies? Where did they come from? And with Maya, it was maybe a little bit different. It was in the sense of, okay, her stepbrother disappeared from town 2 years before. Why did he leave? What did he do? What did she do? What the heck happened here? So again, I think it's hooking them with these questions really, and hoping that they are intrigued enough by the characters and by those questions to go along for the journey and figure them out by the end.
Yeah, overlapping story questions always. Yes. And there's some immediate built-in empathy. Like you can think, oh gosh, if I wake up on a beach and I don't know who I am, so I'm immediately like sorry for this character.
Right.
And that carries me along. And if my boyfriend or a loved one goes missing, that would be horrible. So automatic empathy. So it's interesting to kind of, build on the empathy that our readers already have as humans, and then build those story questions. So that's quite a daunting task you gave yourself there.
I did. The next book, the one for next year, I have one point of view character, a linear timeline, and it was an absolute joy to write. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was saying to my husband, it shouldn't be going this smoothly. There's something wrong with this.
There's something wrong.
Yeah, the editor's going to hate it. And she didn't. She loved it. So I think maybe it was because You Will Remember Me was so difficult. The powers that be, the writing gods were kind to me for book 6.
Even they have empathy from time to time. And you'd earned yourself a little bit of a break,
I'm fully expecting book 7 to kick the backside.
Well, if it's every other one kicks your butt and the next one's nice, that's pretty good, I'd say. Cool. So before writing, you had a successful career in business, and I want to touch on that because I'm intrigued by that. You were the CEO of an IT recruitment startup, and on the surface, being in business, being a business person, and being a writer are so very different. Mm-hmm. So I want you to talk about that a little bit. Did your business experience inform your work as a writer? Not necessarily, could be, but for ideas, but like in how you organize your writing career, how you balance spending your time on your writing versus marketing your writing. Is there an influence there?
Oh, definitely. I mean, first of all, the publisher, agent, author relationship, it took me all of 1 second to understand, because client, recruitment agency, candidate, same thing, exact same thing. It's just the same thing. It's identical. So that was a no-brainer. Oh, okay, agent. Yeah, got it. Okay. And I think in terms of my business experience, what has been really, really helpful, a number of things. One is being very deadline driven and organized. That's two things that are very deadline driven and very, very organized. So that has been instrumental in writing my books and meeting deadlines, setting myself deadlines even before I had an agent, before I had a book deal, after I had an agent, I would set myself deadlines. And my general curiosity in terms of business. So, for example, I remember a management meeting we were in. This was before I was the CEO. I was operations chief operating officer. And we agreed in the management meeting that we would open a subsidiary in Germany. And go around the table. Yeah, Germany. Yeah, Frankfurt. Yeah, right. Got it. Okay, great. Hannah. Yeah, on it. And I had no idea how to do that. Didn't have a clue. Not a clue. But I am very curious in terms of of new things, how they work, how to do that. And I knew that while I didn't have the knowledge, the in-depth knowledge of how to open a subsidiary in Germany, I would find people who did, and it was all going to be fine. And I love being put in a situation that I've not been in before. And I think that lends itself really well to writing, because each story is different. Because even if you're writing a series, there's, yes, recurring characters, but different situations. And for me, I write standalone, so each story is different and new. And oh, look, a shiny thing, I would say. So there are many things that have helped, and I think also just the general approach to business in terms of, yes, I'm creating art, but it is a business, but it's not personal. So, for example, if and recently this happened, I was writing potential outlines for book 7, and my publisher said, we think that's a bit quiet. We need something bigger, something splashier. And I'm not hurt by that. I mean, it's, rats, I'm gonna have to come up with another idea, but I don't take it personally. It's not personal. They are looking out for me, for my career. Similarly, if, for example, Sister Dear was picked up by Hodder and Stoughton in the UK, they bought Her Secret Son and The Neighbours and republished them as ebooks in Australia and New Zealand and South Africa, but they passed on You Will Remember Me. It's not it's a shame, and I really wish they'd acquired it too. But it's not personal. It's business.
Right.
It's not personal. So I think that whole, I wouldn't even call it armor. I think it's just that or thick skin. It's just that business knowledge and that business sense that this is a business. And I am also responsible for making it a success. Therefore, doing events and promoting and being out there is all part and parcel of being an author. So I think it's helped tremendously, actually.
Yeah, I agree with all your points. I worked for some large tech companies for a while, first as a tech writer and then marketing communications person, and then started a solo practice in marketing communications. And it was kind of the same sensibility that I could translate into writing, like you're saying, that there's the art, and then there's the marketplace, and you can take your work seriously, but can't take yourself too seriously, and approach it as a business with timelines and whatnot. So
yes,
that makes perfect sense to me.
Right.
But you have confessed on your very own website, and we have the website here, HannahMaryMcKinnon.com. So go visit her website, HannahMaryMcKinnon.com, and learn more about her books, learn more about her. But you've mentioned on your website that writing is your oldest passion, and that your first book was a rom-com, and then you pivoted to twisty-turny, dark suspense. So I'd love to know, when you say it was your first passion, did you want to write your oldest passion? Did you want to write when you were a little girl? And then also, how did you make that journey from rom-com to being the queen of twists and turns?
Well, thank you for that title. I accept. Thank you. I loved writing in school. That was my favorite thing to do, was when we got to write a story, or it could have been an essay as well at a push. That was fine. But I really, really loved it when it was just write a short story, beginning of a short story, and they only had to give us a word, write one word on the the blackboard. They were at the time, they weren't whiteboards. They were with the chalk,
Right.
the old-fashioned ones. And I was off. I always had ideas. I never sat there thinking, oh no, I don't know what to write about. And it always sparked ideas. And I loved that. But then I left school, and it was all about a business career. That was what I wanted to do, was own my own company. That was the whole objective. And in the end, when we moved to Canada, so skip ahead, 3 decades, and we moved to Canada, and I started up my own business after the very successful career I had in IT recruitment. My business failed. So while I was a shareholder before, a very small one of the very successful business, I was then 100% shareholder of the one that crashed and burned and failed and died a death and will never speak about it again.
All right.
So that was when I was, let me see, I was 40, I think, ish. Yeah, 40, 41. And I didn't really know what to do with myself. And at that point, Rob said, well, if you could do anything, what would you do? And throughout the years, I thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice to write a book? But what would I write? And I don't have time, and all the rest of it. And that was when I said, well, I think I'd kind of like to try and write a book, but it's a pipe dream. It's never going to work. I'm never going to get anywhere. And he said, just if you're going to do it now. Because if you give yourself a year or two to try and do this and it doesn't work out, at least you've tried, give it a go, try. And so I did, and here we are. So why rom-com? It was simply because I'd read a lot of rom-coms. I used to read thrillers up until my mid-20s, and then I stopped reading them for the best part of 2 decades. My best friend was murdered, and it just turned me off thrillers completely. So I just couldn't handle them. So I read a lot of rom-coms, but I also felt a bit old for rom-coms, because a bit old for the, am I going to find a boyfriend? I'm going to find true love. And I've been married at this point for, I don't know, over a decade and a half or whatever. So I thought, I don't know, is this, but I had the idea for Time After Time, the rom-com, and I went with it, and I wrote it, and I loved writing it. It was fun. Got rejected a lot, and finally got an agent and whatnot, and the book sold. But before the book had sold, I think even before I got an agent, I'd started writing the second one, which was The Neighbours. And it was a lot darker and grittier, and things weren't necessarily going to work out for everyone in the end. And I found myself enjoying writing that one even more. And that was when I realized, my love for thrillers has not gone away. And that was when I started reading, just gobbling down thrillers again. I couldn't get enough of them. And I realized that's the space I wanted to be in. So it was and because honestly, Time After Time came out as an ebook with HarperCollins UK, it hadn't done brilliantly. HarperCollins North America, who've acquired all my other books after the first one, were fine with me switching genres, because it wasn't as if I'd been on the New York Times bestseller list. Thankfully, it hadn't really done that well, so it didn't matter that I switched over to the dark side. So
and see, there's that pragmatic business side. You recognize that gave you the freedom to experiment in what genre is the right fit for me.
Yes.
So that's kind of neat. That's a great writer's journey. What are you working on now that you can tell us about?
So book 6 for 2022 is done. I have a tentative title, but it's not official yet, so I won't share it. But I can tell you that it is the first time it's not the first time I've written an entire book from a man's perspective. It's the second time, Her Secret Son being the first. But it is the first time I've written the entire novel from the antagonist's point of view.
Oh,
yeah. So normally my leading men are good men. They're flawed, but they have good hearts. Yes. Not this one. So Lucas is in his early 30s. He is married to Michelle, who's very wealthy. And the book opens up. She has disappeared. She's been gone for a month, and Lucas knows that she's never coming home because he organized a hitman on the dark web to get rid of her so he can cash in. So that's how the book opens. However, he receives a partial photograph of her in the mail, and somebody knows what he did. Somebody knows something. The question is, who knows what, and what are they going to do next?
Oh,
So that's the story for next year's book.
intriguing. Again, those story questions upon story questions. And this is why you're the queen of twists.
You'll let me know if you read it.
But this year's book is You Will Remember Me, just out. So folks, get your hands on this book and visit Hannah at her website. You're on Facebook, you're on Twitter, you're on Instagram. So all great places to connect up with Hannah. So thank you for joining me today, and thanks everybody for joining both of us, Hannah and me, Jess Montgomery, on Tea with Jess. And until our next tea break next week, take care of yourself and your loved ones and have fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.